our feature presentation.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon. Yes, it is, because the Braves are up 1-0 in the World Series. And welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. And very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. You can find us at jbandgoldwatershow.com. And always, if you haven't, download the JB and Goldwater app. That's free. It's awesome on Friday nights because you just pull it up and you can check every high school score in football in the state. If you got a particular region, program, or whatever, you just want to check in on high school football, if you have our app, we've got a link right there to the scoreboard, and you can pop that up on Friday evenings and check it out. You can check us out till 2 o'clock today. And we've got back-to-back guests. J.C. Shurburtt, as always, 12:30 to 1:30 or more from thebigspur.com. But coming up here in about 8 minutes, head coach Chad Holbrook at the College of Charleston will join us. We're going to talk to him about the World Series. We're going to talk to him about the new digs coming to Patriots Point for the Cougars. Just recently, former College of Charleston infielder Oliver Marmel, Ollie, named the head coach or the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll check in on the Cougs and what they had going on this fall in practice. So there's a lot to fuss and discuss with Coach Holbrook, but obviously the World Series is at the forefront of our minds. You can check in on the Share Healthcare chat lines, as many of you have already done so. ShareHealthcare.com for more affordable, user-friendly, more options, healthcare for you and your family, as low as $149 a month. And make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Mostly baseball and football today. We'll try to sprinkle in some NFL stuff too. But last night, game one, Darren, of the World Series belonged to the Atlanta Braves. From the third pitch of the game, the first swing of the game left the yard. It's the first time ever in World Series history that the leadoff guy hit one out of there. And that was Jorge Soler back in the lineup. I thought it was interesting they were putting him in there back in the leadoff spot with Rosario doing what he was doing, but he didn't slow down in the 5-hole last night. Neither did the Braves offense. The Charlie Morton story is amazing. So's the World Series, and I'm so happy and thankful that tonight is game 2 at 8:09. Darren, what a start for Atlanta.
And you couldn't ask for much more, right? Not only winning game 1, but doing it the way you did. David Ortiz said something very interesting today. He said the team, the Astros, they weren't out of it. They didn't give up, but it felt like Minute Maid Park. He felt like the fans inside the stadium had an emotional letdown after the barrage of runs in the first 3 innings. As some of our commenters have pointed out in our Share Healthcare comment section already, doing my job for me, you touched on one of them, Soler, the first ever true leadoff home run. The other, first time a team has scored runs in the first 3 innings of game 1 as well. I mean, that's the way you jump. And then you get the Morton injury and you're thinking, oh God, is this going to spiral? And then the bullpen backs them up. There were a lot of good takeaways for the Braves in game 1.
Yeah, it couldn't have been a better start. And one of the things we're going to talk to Coach Holbrook about here coming up in a few minutes is the approach early on for the Braves in the first couple of innings against Framber, I believe is how they actually pronounce it, Valdez, because they knew exactly what they were looking for, and they clearly had done their homework as to what he was capable of doing on the mound. And you pair that with the fact that it's just been a hot Braves team, good things are bound to happen, and they did. I mean, and it wasn't like, Darren, yeah, there was a couple little infield tricklers and things like that that kind of went their way early, but the large majority of balls put in play off of him, they were hammered. I mean, and capitalized by Duvall's shot that, if it wasn't for a couple of bleachers up there, that thing would have flown to the moon. I mean, it was a line drive of sorts. That will put it that way. So their approach was really good. Mentor was spectacular. And I know that I've made a lot of this the last few days, but I've done it intentionally because I feel like Luke Jackson and Brian Snitker received way too much ridiculous criticism. Darren, that was a brilliant managerial job to put him in where they put him in for a couple of reasons. One, yeah, it was righty, but it wasn't in a hold situation. He wasn't setting anything up there. They had a large lead, and he came in earlier than he usually does, and they had Matzik set to go behind him. Now, obviously, the batting order has a lot to do with that, but because they put him right back out there the other night, it didn't work. Guess what they did? They put him right back out there. There's always pressure in the World Series. It's the World Series. There's going to be pressure on you, but he didn't have eighth inning pressure on him. Mm-hmm. He had middle of the game, keep him at bay, go out there and pitch, son. And he went out there and he pitched really well. They can't win this thing without the righty Luke Jackson. They got to have a righty-righty matchup, and they got one last night, and he was special.
Snitker continues to push all the right buttons, right? I mean, we talked about it with Corey that if you're going to win this World Series, Luke Jackson has to be a part of it. In Corey's words, he was the most reliable reliever they had all year long. His regular season ERA was below 2. So you couldn't have a spot where you could use him and not use him and let that slip, because then what does that say to him? What does that say mentally to him when maybe game 2 in the 8th inning, there's his typical spot and you call on him? He's like, well, you know, how we feeling here, right? At least now he's got confidence. And if it backfired, it was in a spot that Snitker could come and get him and maybe try him again in a different spot. And to your point about the Braves offense, Smoltz was on that early last night, pointing out the Braves are laying off. Valdez is at his best when guys are going after pitches middle down in the zone, and the Braves weren't. They were waiting for the pitches that they could, square up. They were waiting for balls higher up in the zone, and they weren't, to say chasing would be the wrong way to put it. I mean, a lot of them were strikes, but they weren't offering up at those balls that they couldn't elevate, that they couldn't square. They were taking them. It was a good approach. It worked. It backed them to 6 runs, right? Yep. It worked out. You held on. You're up 1-0, man. I have a stat about that, by the way. In the wild card era, so that goes back to 95, only 5 of 26 teams that have faced a 0-1 deficit in the World Series have come back to win it.
Really? That's surprising to me. That's very surprising. That's incredibly surprising. I would think that would be much more evened out.
Yeah, I mean, it's game 1. You'd think it would be, but only 5 of 26 times has it happened that 0-1 in the World Series, the last 26 have come back to win.
That's incredible. Oh, wow. Great stat. I had a stat I put out a little while ago. I did some research. It's finally struck me. Since 2000, only the National League East has placed every team in the division in the World Series. That's it. Just the National League East. If the Braves win it, the East will have the most teams with a title since the turn of the century. That would be 4 of the 5. Right now, the NL East and the NL West both have 3 teams in their respective divisions with World Series championships. Speaking of respect, how much respect can we and the rest of the world give Charlie Morton today for literally fracturing a fibula and continuing to pitch 16 more pitches he threw? By the way, he only gave up 1 hit last night, 2 1/3 innings before he had to come out, and his season is over. That is a significant piece of information because this game is not going to end in 4. They're going, this series, they're going to go to 5 or 6. I predicted 7. Houston will come off the mat. And Charlie Morton would have had to pitch again, but he's not going to be able to pitch now because of that. So what will Atlanta do? They did add former Vanderbilt righty Kyle Wright to the roster yesterday, so he might be an option, but he hasn't pitched in a while for the Braves either. So we'll see. But tonight, we will see Max Fried on the mound trying to get Atlanta to a 2-0 series lead. If they get 2-0 coming home with 3, 4, and 5 to play at Truist, wow. Jose Urquidy will oppose him for Houston, trying to even this series up at 1 apiece, 8:09 again on Fox. I've got a gut feeling that this guy will probably be watching that game. It's the head baseball coach of the College of Charleston Cougars and one of the great men in the sport and just in general, Chad Holbrook. What's up, man?
Thought he was there.
Coach? Did we miss him? We missed him.
Well, we'll have to get him back.
Yeah, get him back.
I heard him a second ago.
Yeah, I did.
He probably put us on hold. He said, "Man, you're talking baseball. You're not even coming to me."
Yeah, we'll get Coach Holbrook back here in just a minute. David hadn't pitched in a while. Equals fresh arm. Yeah, I mean, sure, but it's difficult to plug a guy into the World Series and say, "Well, you're fresh, go pitch." But they can do it. You never know. It's the big leagues, man. But yeah, so we'll have to see kind of how that looks. But I like Fried tonight against Urquidy. I like this matchup for Atlanta. Probably going to be a bunch of lefties again, and they got a righty type lineup over there for the Astros. Maybe this guy could probably explain it a lot better than us. We'll try this again. Chad Holbrook, head coach at the College of Charleston. What's up, man?
We're good. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. I got to see Coach a couple weeks ago. It's great to catch up. We're going to get in. There's a lot going on with the College of Charleston baseball program here over the last few days. Quite a list of announcements to get to. But I want to talk to you about the World Series, Coach. You're probably one of the smartest baseball minds I've ever encountered. And last night's game between Houston and Atlanta, I want to talk some managerial stuff with you. But first and foremost, what'd you think about the ball game?
It was an awesome game, and I'm gonna embarrass you with my age because I was from a strategery standpoint in the game about the seventh inning. Sometimes when you get over 50 and you get in your recliner and it hits the seventh inning or so, you're in and out. And I was in and out. I'll be the first to say. It's one of those open your right eye just to see what the score is, and if they still got it under control, you can close it and open the left one about 10 minutes later. That was in that mode. In eighth and ninth inning, but it was a great night for the Braves, man. They came out, let Houston know they were here to win right out of the gate, right from the first at bat of the night, and hopefully we look back on that, and as Braves fans, we look back and said, Soler set the tone with that swing. He set the tone for the whole weekend, and it's kind of a fun team to like, a fun team to watch. And heck, I just got done before you guys called me reading an article that Jock Peterson wrote. And
yeah,
I don't really have the link but it was an incredible article that gives you a sense of what the true definition of team is. And and kudos to Jock for sharing some of those behind the scenes type stories that he had in the article. Really, really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I read that yesterday. Obviously, the one word that everybody's talking about we can't say publicly, but it stuck out with me, and that's something, Coach. You've been you know this organization, the Braves. They're successful when they sign guys who kind of fit the Braves. It's long been an organization of, I say the word family. I'm using that a little loosely here, but they've always signed guys who are Georgia kids or Southeastern kids, college kids from this area. It's a lot of the kids that they've signed, as you know, are familiar with the Braves, and then they try to go out in trades or whatever, signing other guys from the big leagues to fit that model. And I think, as you pointed out, they've kind of done that again. They've kind of got that magic back in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, for your listeners, that article was in the Players Tribune. I think the playerstribune.com. And, I think you can have great kids and you can have local kids like the Braves have had, or you can have kids from Georgia, and you still might be missing something chemistry-wise, or just because you have great kids, or just because you have great players, or just because you have a really solid team, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you success at the highest level. So those little things, like Jock getting on the pitcher's bus and spending time with the pitchers, those things go. The little things like that go such a long way, and it's in professional sports especially, because there's so much. I don't really have the experience to talk about professional sports, but there's so much money involved, and when all of a sudden that team can almost forget about I get a sense the Braves have forgot about money. I get Freddie has sacrificed huge contracts to stay there and to play, for the manager that he's playing for. And what Jock said in the article, it's like, we don't think about all this other things. We just think about how much we care about each other, how much we love each other. And when we get on the field, we try to kick everybody's butt. And it's kind of refreshing. They almost have a collegiate vibe about their team with the enthusiasm that they play with. And I think that's been really, really cool to see, because I think all of us say, when you go to a college baseball game or you watch Omaha, the enthusiasm differs from a professional baseball game. I think we can all agree on that.
Yep.
The Braves have brought that collegiate energy to a major league stadium, and I think that's pretty cool.
I totally agree. It actually reminds me a lot of a couple of teams you were a part of in Columbia when y'all won national championships. Mm-hmm. I knew a lot of those guys. I knew how they clicked and things like that. So, Coach, I from what I understand, you were awake in the first inning, right?
I was, yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure before I ask this question to you. So,
I'm not that old.
Hey, let me know what it.
I didn't make it to the end of the game either. I'm not 50. I'm closer to 50 than Jamie, but I didn't make it to the end of the game either.
Well, both of you, let me know at what point in time I need to stop asking managerial questions because you didn't see it. Just draw the line somewhere for me. But the first couple of innings against Valdez, these are the Coach, you know me. I could have baseball conversations all day. And the first thing that I thought of last night when Soler hit that home run was, wow, if the rest of the lineup is utilizing the same approach as he is right now, this kid ain't gonna be in the game long. So I wanted to ask you what you saw early through your eyes from the Braves' perspective. Smoltz pointed out on TV they were really laying off of that. It looked like kind of like a sinker that would start in the middle of the plate and kind of dive on you a little bit. And he wasn't getting those calls outside of the strike zone, which obviously is to the Braves' advantage as well. But they all seemingly had a similar approach, and they weren't just hitting him; they were hammering the baseball. So what'd you see?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumped out to me was they did not collectively as a group. They wanted to make him get the ball up. They frustrated him by not swinging at those pitches, at the knees or below the knees, and not chasing pitches out of the strike zone. You could kind of see the emotion come out in him, like when Albies beat that ball out, that infield ground ball. They didn't not get any runs after that, but Albies beat that ball out, like ground ball to second base, and you could kind of see his body language, shoulders drop. They just stopped. They'd stop. I knew then they had this guy on the ropes, and I think an inning later when that missile was hit about knocked down the left field grandstand. I mean, it was really, really. Their plate approach was flawless. They obviously had an incredible scouting report on him. They didn't chase pitches down in the strike zone. They made him get the ball up. It's kind of the same premise that you hear a lot of coaches talk about when they're facing a submariner or a sinker ball pitcher. Obviously, that the pitcher for the Astros is a ground ball machine. That's where he gets a lot of his success. And the Braves made him throw the ball up in the strike zone. And you made a good point. They had a tight umpire that didn't give those pitches that were down, and they got into some good counts offensively. And when they got those fastballs over the meat of the plate, they didn't miss them.
Because we have you on, I want to get you to kind of walk. I was having a Twitter conversation with Randy Carlson about this earlier, and I think that it's so neat to have people like you be able to give insight on some plays like this. But do you remember the ground ball last night that Albie's backhanded? Kind of had a tough hop, had to come get it.
Right. Yeah.
Walk me through that. I mean, you teach this. I mean, middle infielders, that's what you tell them how to do it. So there are some guys are coached well, and some guys don't know how to do that. How do you field that type of ground ball? For those that don't remember, it was kind of a in between hopper, and Ozzie had to come up, get it, backhand it, and throw it over to first. It was a great play, probably overlooked by the average baseball fan, Coach, but that's a tough play. Explain it for us.
Those guys are so good. Their hands are, I think sometimes you give coaching too much credit when major league players or professional players or the elite of the elite, make plays like that. I'll give you an example. Not many people know off the top of their hand who Tom Brady's quarterback coach is, right? I mean, Tom Brady's Tom Brady because Tom Brady's Tom Brady. I mean, Albie's is incredible. But what I noticed about it, if you're going to say, hey, what's the coaching technique that he utilized there?
Yeah.
Most of the time infielders are taught to funnel the ball to their belly. In other words, their hands are out in front of them, and then when the ball gets in the glove, they kind of funnel it to get in the proper throwing position. Well, sometimes on tricky hop, you actually have to do the opposite and push your hands out through the ball. And last night, I mean, that was beautiful what he did. And, the tricky hop, and he pushed his hands really through the ball. So he knew that the ball would be in his glove. He tried to beat the bad hop, so to speak, to make it sound understandable. There's a lot of other factors that go to it. But, I mean, obviously pushing his hands out, coming and getting the ball, pushing his hands through the ball kind of eliminated the tricky hop. And to do it on the run, and that's just pure T athleticism and flexibility. They got a great infield instructor in Ron Washington. I mean, those guys are phenomenal. You don't see plays like that made at the amateur level too many times. You got some that make it. I mean, I've seen Wingo make that play, from time to time, and I've been around some really, really gifted ones, but. It's a terrific play on the biggest stage, and that kid's fun to watch. And how many times you get a second baseman like that can hit in the 3-hole and put up the numbers he's put up over the season? That's just incredible. What a baseball player.
Let me ask you this:
you got two of them. You got Altuve as well. I mean, those guys put on a clinic last night.
So we had Corey McCartney on yesterday, Coach, and he was talking about the work that Atlanta does and how the players have bought in to all the extra work. You just said, Brady is Brady because Brady is Brady, and these guys at this level can make these plays, but there's work being done, right? It's not like it's just the overall talent. So how much? What's the balance there? Like if you've got a star, say you've got Ollie Marmel back on your team, right, back at the college. If you've got a star, how often are you drilling him? How often does he want to be out there drilling himself so that he can make that play when it matters?
Sometimes the best players encourage the coaches to coach them more, and that's kind of a really, really cool trait to have. When we think we teach the game as hard as we can teach it, and we try like crazy for our players. And even when I was with Coach Tanner, one of the things that he wanted to do is always put his players in position in practice that they're going to find themselves in a game. And that's like a novel concept. You'd say, well, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I mean, to the degree of, I'll give you an example. Like one of the philosophies that I learned from Coach Tanner was, well, if bunt defenses take place, 8 to 10% of the time over the course of the whole season, our practice plan is going to be set up where we're going to work on bunt defenses 8% of the time. Mm-hmm. Just kind of, that's how old school coaches they want to make sure they put the kids in position in a game that or in practice that they're going to find themselves in a game. And then you feel like you're doing that and you're doing a good job of that and you're drilling them and you're putting them in the right spot. And then those kids want more, which is what you're getting with the Braves. They want more. They're like, hey, I know we did this. How about this? How about this? They come to you with things that they want to work on because maybe they're uncomfortable with a certain play, or maybe they want to work harder on their backhand because they're not as confident as they want to be in their backhand, or maybe a hitter's not as comfortable in his two-strike approach facing a left-handed pitcher, so we're going to work on the special ones. They want more, and it's really, the coolest thing about it is when you have all-stars or when you have elite players that can't be coached hard enough, you have something special. And those kids and that's why they love being around each other. You have a collective group of players that can't get coached enough, and at the highest level. So in other words, they're saying, I don't know it all. I'm a major leaguer. I want to continue to learn. I want to continue to get better. I'll give you a great story. You're going to really, really love this. So being involved in Coach Tanner's program and at South Carolina, he taught me a really, really neat thing about pop fly priority. And it's a simple drill in baseball. Communication, who has priority over the ball, who has, what's the communication involved when the ball's in the air, that kind of thing. And, and after Coach Tanner retired, I was at South Carolina and I coached a kid on our team named Ryan Ripken. Well, I was Cal's son.
Yep. And
Cal often came to our practice to watch practices. And I remember Cal after practice one day, he pulled us aside and goes, "What you do with your pop fly priority is phenomenal. I have it in my right mind. I'm going to share that with the Orioles." Well, all right. You say, well, that's a cool compliment. Well, you think about it. This guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. This guy's played in 3,000 games in a row. He's saddled up each and every day. He watches a college team practice and he's still wanting to learn the game.
Yeah.
Now, that tells me all, and I think the Braves and even the Astros, because you can't judge them on they have guys like that just show up to the park. The game's going to teach you something new every day. They're not arrogant enough to think they know it all. They want to continue to learn and get better. And what a cool thing! It's actually refreshing to watch, and it seems like a lot of the great ones have that mentality and have that characteristic about them.
I never knew that. That's an awesome story. So how tall is Cal, by the way? Is he like 6'4"?
Yes.
Oh, big tall guy. Yeah. Tall guy. Yeah. He's imposing. Yeah. And so, the way their mind thinks in regards to the game of baseball is just sit down with them for dinner and then they talk the game. It's amazing what you can learn. And for him to come down to us and say, "Hey, I learned something today watching a college team play," when he'd been involved in, this was well after his playing days. He'd been involved in thousands and thousands of major league games and being coached by Hall of Famers. That's really, really cool. In other words, he shows it in the park not only to watch his son, but to continue to learn. That's a cool thing. That's the beauty of baseball in many aspects. That's one of the beautiful things about our game.
It's very on maybe a different level. It's like us learning from you. You taught me a lot in the last 20 minutes. I know that I know we've kind of kept you a while, Coach, but I do want to. Hey, Darren, do me a favor. Text JC and tell him he's gonna have to wait a little bit longer. We got plenty of time to get him in. Coach, I want it before I get to your program and all that's going on with it right now, because I know you've had a great fall. The Marmel story, the new digs coming to town. I want to get into all that here in just a second. I want to ask you though about one more coaching decision, or made by Brian Snitker, or managerial decision, I guess is what you'd call it at that level. This is something that we've talked about around here, and with the caveat that I don't know it all, but I Coach, we've got a pretty good feel on baseball. And Luke Jackson. Okay, so here's a kid who has had his struggles over the years, had a sub-2 ERA this year out of the pen for the Braves. Gets into the postseason, gets peppered by the Dodgers in the NLCS. Snitker throws him back out there, gets peppered again. And then he comes in last night and he's special. So the quick caveats I'm going to add to that are the fact that Snit put him back out there in the NLCS, gave him another chance to go get it done. He couldn't get it done. And then last night goes with righty on righty matchups, but not in a hold situation. They brought him in earlier in the game, kind of relieving some of that late game pressure. Just as a manager, as a coach, like you are, kind of walk us through that mindset and how you have to handle these type of situations for your kids, because you're going to need them if you want to go win it.
Well, I mean, it's I'm so glad that. I mean, obviously, it goes to show you he's been around Jackson long enough to have the supreme amount of confidence in him, and when you're around someone each and every day and you see about how someone goes about their business, you through the good times and the bad times, that confidence often doesn't wane. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, when the Braves were up 2-0 and had a chance to go 3-0, and he took Matzik out and put Jackson in, and had a chance to go for the throw the night Bellinger hit the 3-run homer. Mm-hmm. See, I managerially, I'm not a manager in pro ball, but at college game, I couldn't have done that. I mean, I'm just sitting here saying, okay, if I'm putting him in to save my lefty reliever for another game, well, you could have gone up 3-0. I don't know if I could have done that. So kudos to him to have the confidence and understand what may happen, good or bad, or we're still up 2-0, and he left, and it didn't work out, and they went, and Jackson had a bad night, and then he had another bad one. But it's just you got to give credit to Snicker in this deal, because he has supreme confidence in his player, and he knows that it's going to take collectively the group bullpen to get it done, and he's gonna. That's his decision. That's how he's going to do it. We did that with Michael Roth, in 2010. He was just a situational lefty, and that was his role. We learned later that he could get a lot of people out, but we only put him in that role. And, and that was the role. When he got the lefty out, he came out of the game. It's just, I don't know how I can walk you through it other than to say that manager has supreme confidence in the people that he puts in the game with the game on the line, and he's comfortable, good or bad, with what happens. And he's going to play the numbers, he's going to play the statistics, and he's going to go that route. And he's going to keep those guys in that role, win, lose, or draw. And he sticks with it. And kudos to him for sticking with it. It's actually coming now. It might on the biggest stage, it might win him a World Series championship. The perseverance and the mindset that the manager has to stick with his plan, even when things didn't happen in a positive manner. He didn't panic. He stuck with his plan, and now it's working. It's really that's cool to see as well.
And the effect on the player, Coach, if he doesn't put him back out there, what's that do for him versus when he does just throw him back out there?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. It'd have been interesting to see if he would have loaded the bases with nobody out, how quick the hook would have been. Mm-hmm. Because if the player had lost confidence in himself, I think the manager would see that really quickly and take him out. But when he got his confidence back, by one, the mere act of putting him back into the game obviously gave the player confidence in himself. I've had 2 bad outings in a row, and the manager's going to put me in the game in this critical situation in the World Series. He must believe in me. I mean, that in itself, that mere act had to give Jackson confidence in himself. And kudos to Jackson for not wilting and not having a great outing. And I think Snicker would have probably noticed really quickly in that inning when they put him in, if he had lost confidence in himself, I think they would have probably got him out a little bit quicker because of the tough outings he had against the Dodgers. But man, that's a cool act to watch. That's coaching is the beauty of the game, the beauty of the sport. To put somebody in that you believe in when things are going bad and it works out. It's awesome to see. I mean, that was really, really cool. That was cool for the team. That was cool for the manager. That was cool, obviously, for the pitcher. And I think that bodes well for putting him back in there for some meaningful outs as the series progresses.
Braves looking to go up 2-0 tonight against Houston in Houston, Minute Maid Park. Max Fried is on the bump. Jose Urquidy will oppose him for the Astros. Game 3 coming up on Friday night. Ian Anderson will get the start at Truist, and that place is sure to be on fire now that Atlanta will come back nothing short of even in the series. All right, so your guys, Coach, going through fall practice. How do you feel about your team?
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot. We've had a good fall. I think everybody, every manager, every coach, head coach in college baseball feels good about where their team is right now. Mm-hmm. But there's been some impressive things that we've been able to observe. We got some exciting new young players, and I think we're a lot deeper than we've been in the past, and certainly a more physical team. And I think we're ready to have a big year. I would be I would be very disappointed if we didn't put a top-notch college baseball team out on the field this year. I feel really good about this group.
How about the young man from Bishop England? What's he look like?
You hate to put labels on it, and I'm not gonna crown him Cy Young right now, but he's certainly very, very talented. The neat thing about Daniel Brooks is this: he's very talented. He's a big-time pro prospect, but he's also a kid that loves to come to the field and work every day, loves to go to the weight room and work every day, loves to get better every day. He's why we coach. I mean, he's one of the reasons. I mean, we all get into this profession, and we get so much enjoyment from being able to coach kids like that. And it's been fun to watch him work this fall, and obviously he's going to have a prominent role for us this year. We're excited about Daniel, and we're excited about some of our other guys that have really grown up too. Our pitching staff has been intact from a year ago. They're a year older, a year wiser, a year stronger. So we're expecting, we want the backbone of this program to be our pitching staff, and we think we got some good ones.
Yeah, Coach, the COVID situation last year, giving everybody an extra year this year, how is that affecting you now for next year?
Well, next year it'll be a little bit similar back to normal. This year we still got some guys maybe that we wouldn't have, from a couple years ago. Is this a different teams managed it and help? It just worked different. I don't know how to put my finger on last year, other than it just felt weird all the time. With the amount of testing that was going on, the amount of positive tests that came back, the juggling that each coach had to do. It seems like some programs handled it better than others. We didn't handle it great. It almost just seemed like you never knew who you were going to be able to put on the field at a particular time because of all the things that were going on off the field. So it's almost like, okay, this year there's a sense of normalcy. Most of our kids are vaccinated. The testing is a lot easier to come by. You're not taking them away from their class schedule or their tutor schedule. They can get the testing at the field now. Everything's just so much more organized and easy. And I think we're back to normal, so to speak. I know COVID's still out there and it's affected so many people, obviously, but I think from an athletic standpoint and the way that we're dealing with it now, there's a sense of normalcy amongst our players, and there's a sense of normalcy around college athletics now. And I think that's good for the experience these kids have.
Final couple of minutes. Chad Holbrook, head coach at the College of Charleston. Speaking of experiences that these kids will have, a whole new one is coming to Patriots Point with the announcement of about, I think it's $35 million being spent in facilities over there. That includes major upgrades to the ballpark, Coach. The renderings are unbelievable. I mean, what type of impact do you anticipate this having on your program?
Well, I mean, it's just, speaking for our program, I mean, it's just time for this program has been it's got a rich tradition. We've had very successful teams. We've had some kids reach their dreams at the college level playing here, at the professional level. When you mentioned Ollie and Brett Gardner, and at the college level with Coach Lee, going on to be the head coach at Clemson. I mean, this place has had some incredible people in it and at this school and in this baseball program over the years. But the one thing that really hasn't changed much has been our facility. And quite frankly, it's been a little frustrating watching some other mid-major programs kind of pass us by a little bit in the facility department. And so what has been really, really cool is you've seen an administration, a president, a board of trustees say, you know what, it's time that we get behind, the entire athletic department here at the college, but give them the facilities that they deserve to compete at the highest level. And so I think when we do get this built, you know, a recruit's going to walk in and say, I can become the best baseball player I can with all the facilities that they have here. And this is a great place for me to train and develop on a year in, year out basis. And it's going to have incredible locker rooms, and incredible batting cage, and a pitching laboratory. I mean, it's going to have everything a baseball player would want to have. And the neat thing about us, which separates us from others, it's going to be in a venue, in a scene, and from a scenery standpoint, and a scenic standpoint, unlike any others. You know, you can, on one side of the building, on the second floor, you can overlook the bridge and the beautiful harbor and the Ravenel Bridge, and you can turn around and overlook, you know, the incredible golf course and the ocean on the other side of the golf course. And what an incredible place we're going to have. And I think it's going to do worlds for us in recruiting. I think once the kids are here, it's going to do incredible things for them as far as their development. And it's long overdue, and we couldn't be more excited for the future of our program and the excitement behind this project from the leadership of the college.
So which side's your office going to be on, golf course side or harbor side?
First team,
definitely
man.
the field side. So our coaches will overlook the field and the bridge. So that'll be that view will be breathtaking for sure. But you know, the neat thing is we're going to get a new playing surface here. We're going to get I think we're going to get new LED lighting. We're going to get we're going to try to make it as close to big league as we possibly can. Short of it won't be, you know, 40,000 people in here. It'll be a nice cozy crowd, but we're going to have all the amenities that big league parks have.
Well, the former player is in a big league park now as manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, Ollie Marmel, who's actually my age, but I knew his older brother, Ronnie, when I was Ronnie's bat boy for the College of Charleston at the old park over at Rimley's Point as a snot-nosed little kid. Ronnie came in pretty much right behind Monty Lee. Or no, they were at the same time. They were played in the same, they were the same era. But Ollie Marmel is a good family. He's a manager, man, for the Cardinals now. I'm not sure how well you know the Marmels, Coach, but this has got to mean so much to the Cougars baseball program. I'm sure it's going to come back and pay off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Ollie well. All I can say is what I've heard about him from his time here and the people that spent a lot of time around him, and how hard a worker he was, and the type of character he had and the enthusiasm he had for the game, the energy that he played with, and the energy that he coached with all throughout his advancement in the Cardinals organization. It's in professional baseball. What a heck of an opportunity. And, you know, it goes back to what I was saying, you know, your dreams can come true when you play at the College of Charleston and at Patriots Point. And all we have to do is look at Ollie and Brett Gardner and some other big leaguers that are out there and have had incredible baseball careers. And kudos to Ollie for, I mean, he's paid his dues. He's worked his tail off. He's obviously has immaculate character and work ethic, and he's getting the opportunity that he deserves. And that's really, really cool. And I can tell you, this whole school, from the Alumni Association to the president of our school to our athletic director, our baseball program, we couldn't be more excited for him. And we know that he's going to do a great job managing the Cardinals.
Well, we're excited for you, Coach. I've said this before. How could you not want to play baseball for Chad Holbrook? I truly mean that. You're a great coach, but a better person. I know we've kept you a long time today. Probably, I know you eat breakfast early, so I hope you ate before you hopped on with us, because if not, I know you're starving.
Paige's Okra Grill gives me all the energy I need all day, every day. You know, I'm waiting on them to name a dish after me. I've been there so many times. Maybe they'll do that soon. You know.
Okay.
So, but no, I'm glad you got to join me for breakfast one day last week.
Yep.
You're welcome to join me each and every day that you want to come by and see me and talk baseball. And it was truly enjoyable to me. Okay. And me and you we're walking similar paths as dads and as lovers of the game of baseball. And you know, the more time we can spend together, the better. So let's make it a routine occurrence, and feel free to call me anytime you want me on your show.
Coach, thank you so much. Let me know when Miss Jennifer comes to town so we can drop the kids off for a couple days.
That sounds great. We'll do it.
See ya.
See you, Coach. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jamie.
There you go. Chad Holbrook, head coach of the College of Charleston Cougars. I know JC's antsy, but there's no way, Darren, we could sit here and talk baseball all day, right? And it's just great to hear the perspective of those type of decisions from people that understand them. So we lengthened that a little while. Good news. That doesn't mean we're going to shorten JC. We will hit a timeout. When we get back, we'll get a couple quick things in with him, and then we'll spend as much time as he'd like to spend with us coming up in the 1 o'clock hour right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy. I got honeybee beating on my screen door. I got a little buzz in my head. So cause we come from a long line of sinners like me. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-di-da.
And you were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just put a quarter in the jukebox and sing me back home.
I'm going to be singing the Chief right back home December 17th in Greenville. JC, I invite you to fly down and join me because as our year is going, it's hinging on the Braves and Eric Church to wrap it up on a good note, which Atlanta is off to a good start. I want to apologize to you. We're so late getting to you. We invited Coach Holbrook on today, and I just couldn't get away from talking baseball with him for the first 20 minutes. So I'm sorry about that, man. But we're always glad to have you.
Oh no, I listened to part of it. It was interesting. I learned something, and it's certainly good to hear Coach Holbrook's voice again. And certainly love his insight on the Braves and all things baseball, and also those new facilities that you had up there. That looks like they're new facilities at College of Charleston. They look fantastic. That's a really good program he's got going there, and certainly pull for the Cougars every chance I get.
Well, I'm sure he certainly appreciates it. The facilities in this state are Clemson, Carolina, Coastal. Now the college is coming along. The Citadel, where they play down there. CSU's got some things coming before long, from what I understand.
Yeah, well, my girlfriend's a Cougar, so I have to.
Winthrop.
My wife's a Cougar as well, and she's actually a dual Cougar. She is a College of Charleston grad, and
so is that an actual not a play on words there?
But it is all. She is also a Cougar. Yes, 5 years.
3 for me.
My wife's a Cougar too, guys.
Oh man, here we are. 3 handsome guys right here.
They're the 3 best friends that anyone could have. Oh man! So you'll have some more time with us in the 1 o'clock hour, right? That's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. I got. I'm gonna during the break. I'm gonna order some lunch.
Take your time.
After I'm done with this, I got carpool this afternoon, and so got one of the kids homesick today too. So I am all y'all's for the time.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. So we'll get through about the next 6 or 7 minutes here. We'll take a time out, and then we'll spend plenty of time on Carolina football in just a little while. Braves win last night, JC. So that's a good thing. So they're up 1-0. We'll come back to some of that as well, but. And again, I'm going to hold off on any in-depth conversations right now with the Gamecocks simply because we'll be running out of time here before long. Sure. So we'll start with a quick drive around the SEC and a couple of games this weekend to keep an eye on. One, of course, is the cocktail party, Florida and Georgia down. But by the way, what dumbass or jackass out there decided you can't call it the world's largest cocktail party anymore? It's too political. Get that. Jeez Louise. It's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Take it, shove it up your rear end, and get over it. Or don't go. Or who cares?
Yeah.
Or don't go. I mean, why do you care? 3:30 on CBS, and then you've got you got Auburn and Ole Miss at 7 o'clock on ESPN from Jordan Hare. But JC, Florida and Georgia is where Gamecock fans will probably have. Well, 3:30, 7 o'clock kicks. That's good. You can watch both. But a lot of eyes. If you're a Carolina fan, if you're wanting to do some investigative research, will probably be on this game. Carolina's not good, but Florida more than likely is going to drop to 4-4, 2-4 in the league with a loss here, and they're the next opponent in Williams-Brice Stadium. So, what interests you about this matchup?
Well, Florida to me is a very interesting team this year, and I think I don't know if it was on our show during the summer or maybe another one, but we were talking about the schedules, and I thought Florida's schedule was pretty tricky for them as far as some of the places they had to go. The road game at Kentucky. Having Alabama at home, I saw some potential losses, and here we are at 4-4. And 2 7-point losses on the road to LSU and Kentucky in very different ways. One's a shootout, one's kind of a grinded out game. Florida's offense, obviously, I think can be, schemed up to move the ball. I think it's a threat to Georgia's defense, more so than maybe some other teams they've played, but. Like I've said all year, this Georgia defense is not like anything I've seen in a while defensively. And this is a big game for the Bulldogs. You get over this hump and you sort of really like their chances. And the Tennessee game now for Georgia at the end of the year before they play Tech is interesting to me, just because how Tennessee's playing, their style of play, the tempo they run with. They're sort of in sync. Could that be problematic, right there before you get your shot at Alabama? But I think most Georgia people look at this and go, all right, this is a chance to stump your toe like happens frequently in Jacksonville. But if you can get past this one, I think the Dog fans can start hearing Larry Munson in their head. It's a special season. Look at the sugar falling from the sky. I don't know if they're going to the Sugar Bowl, but it's you can start thinking about this team kind of like 2017, sort of like 2012, 2002. And, the teams that Georgia's had over the years since 1980 that, they're still playing for things at the end of the year that are important nationally. So I think this is, for Dog fans, this is a big one. And for the Gators, I think it's big for Dan Mullen because you're starting to hear some hot seat talk, believe it or not, with Dan Mullen. And I don't know about that. I think that, there's some things he does that, are sort of unique, but a lot of unique people have coached at Florida, guys. So, it's I don't see where that would be rubbing people the wrong way. I read something the other day about like him being on the hot seat because of the, and he is 2-6 against his last 8 Power 5 opponents. But, they're talking about that Oklahoma game in the Cotton Bowl last year. Well, goodness, guys, half that team opted out before they played. I don't think we can hold that against Danny Kicks, can we? But I call him Danny. Keith Alsop and I call him Danny Kicks because of his tennis shoes. He likes to wear those tennis shoes all the time. So I think that's an interesting. Auburn Ole Miss, to me, sort of a contrast in styles. I mean, I could see that thing going in a lot of different directions, as far as Auburn, and they're sort of catching on offense right now. They got a good defense. It's on the road, on the plains. I mean, I don't know. I think that's going to tell us a lot about who is that next, team. You got Alabama, A&M in the West, and then is Ole Miss, are they legit enough to be considered one of the top 2 or 3 teams in that division?
Yeah, I mean, the Mullen situation, and again, we got about a minute here. I would say this: Florida fans believe or think, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. But hey, we don't make coaching changes around here to lose 4 and 5 games a year. That's not how we do it at Florida. We make changes so you might lose 1, maybe 2, but not 4 and 5. And as JC, as you pointed out, there's some hot seat stuff there, but Georgia, a loss to Georgia ain't firing Dan Mullen. The 4 that follow that, South Carolina, Samford, at Missouri, and Florida State, are all likely wins for the Gators, and they could finish 8-4, 9-4 with a bowl victory. However, you drop one of those, that's when it starts getting dicey. The Gamecocks, Missouri, Florida State, or Samford at this point in time, the least likely loss is the Gamecocks, and that includes Samford in that conversation because Carolina gains 15 yards every 3 quarters. All right, JC, we're going to hit a quick timeout. Now, we got the national anthem coming up. Speaking of which, we will get heavily into South Carolina to lead off hour 2 with our dear friend here, the owner of the BigSpur.com, JC Shurburtt. So everybody hang tight, grab a snack. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen and proudly presented by Motley Rice. We'll be right back. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Show. Live, loud, and online.
Excuse me. Darren, you screwed it all up.
I mean, you just had like 3 minutes to get a drink of water and not cough right when we came back on.
Well, that was the point. I had a drink of water. Final hour. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It is Power Hour, brought to you by Wando Power. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB. And at Darren Goldwater, 843-321-8893 is our text line. It's also our chat line, and you can comment there. The Share Healthcare chat line's wide open. JC Shurburtt is joining us here for a while. We'll get into the Gamecocks in a minute. Let me kind of look here in the comments. Aaron said the cocktail party's name wasn't changed for some political reasons. There are tons of fights in and around the stadium amongst drunk fans. A few years ago, a few people were found dead in the parking lot, so they didn't want to promote an atmosphere around drinking.
Yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, I get it, but
what about all the other people that enjoy it?
That really did such a great. That worked so well. I mean, because nobody's drinking at the Florida Georgia.
I was about to ask. Did everybody stop drinking?
All those bars on the landing there, they shut down. Like, we're just gonna have a little bit of iced tea and a soda pop and a bologna sandwich here to celebrate the Gators and Dogs, right?
Yeah, New Year's Eve promotes drinking too. What are we going to change that name?
Let's not call it the bubbly anymore. I remember them saying that, and I just kind of ignored it.
I'm not, Aaron. I'm not taking a shot at you, my friend. It has nothing to do with that. That's ridiculous.
Oh no, yeah.
River thing. It's not the shootout anymore, right? It's the showdown or something. Like the Red River rivalry shootout. I just don't even know about that anymore.
It's I still call it the Red River shootout. I'm not sure why that was ever
gun
because people were showing up and shooting at each other, and that didn't happen either. You're right. We could do this all day. All right, JC. Speaking of shootouts, Carolina is not going to be in one of those for a while. Oh no, more like a dead turtle race. He's not even moving. Yeah, it's about like our offense. Yeah, they don't move; they go backwards. As a matter of fact, occasionally forward. Yeah. Sorry, man. Don't come on.
The dead turtle race?
I'm glad you caught that because, I mean,
come on, dude.
Home.
Well, I couldn't call it a turtle race because they don't even move forward. They go backwards.
I mean, she's traumatized. She went in her shell. Okay, I'm sitting there
but she's still alive, right?
Well, she is. The little one washed away this summer. We think he's alive. He just went home, you know.
He's fine.
Fine. You know, people can see there's the habitat back there.
There you go.
Oh God, JC,
I can't believe you said that.
We just got done talking about people getting offended over nothing. I didn't see the JC turtle is dead race.
The world found out I was a turtle dad, and you used that analogy.
Oh,
been that kind of season for the Gamecocks, though. So.
I mean, what else would we call? I don't know what else to call. What goes backwards? Name something that goes backwards when you watch it.
Some certain roller coasters. I don't know. You know.
Exactly, and this is not a roller coaster. I wish it was. That would mean you'd have some ups. There are no ups right now for Carolina's offense. It's all downhill.
It's a struggle, and you know, we've sat here and talked about, you know, what the whys of the situation, you know, and there are some different opinions out there because I think anytime you struggle like this, there's a question of why, and you know, some people out there want to blame the players completely. Some people out there believe, you know, it's a massive rebuild, 5-6 year rebuild anyway. And they start talking about 1999, but most people understand. You know, this offense was not going to go up and down the field against every team on the schedule this year. It was not going to be one of the best offenses in program history, but it sure shouldn't be a historically bad offense either. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And, you know, I think we've pretty much hashed out that, you know, Carolina's trying to run something system-wise that's very complex, probably better suited for the National Football League. And, players continue to be very, very confused. And you know, look, guys, I think that when you're examining something and you know, looking at year one of a coaching staff or year 5 of a coaching staff, you know, it's perfectly acceptable to not be a good team, you know, to not be talented enough, to not be, you know, to be a situation where, you know, Carolina's going to have to recruit their way up a level or two. I think South Carolina's defense is in that spot. You know, I don't think they've been even what you'd call upper echelon, you know, against some of the better teams in the league. But you look at them and you're like, well, they're just going to have to recruit guys and get a little more talented. The offensive problems are a lot different. You know, people don't know what to do, where they're going. We're 8 games in, and you know, the most important thing beyond all that is it's not a productive offense. I mean, you know, you haven't, you know, been able to scratch early against teams in the SEC a whole lot, and it's been a struggle against the other guys, and then a struggle against Vanderbilt, which is you know, when you look at sort of what Vandy's done in their other games, that sort of makes you gulp a little bit if you're the Gamecocks. So. You know, I am, you know, I am 98% certain that these issues all stem from, you know, too complex of an offense in terms of how some of the mistakes manifest themselves, magnify themselves, whatever you have. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't know what Shane Beamer and Marcus Satterfield can do between now and Florida to get it going, but looks like they may have a new quarterback as well. So, you know, we'll see. I just, you know, the Carolina offense yet again against A&M just, and you know, it was just not competitive until the game was well out of reach.
Yeah, so let's talk about the quarterback situation. I mean, I think that you know, my thoughts on this, JC, are that I don't know that at this point in time right now it really matters who the quarterback is. I don't think the scheme is good. As you well know, I do a bunch of research myself. To try to speak with others that are much smarter than I am and understand this way more than I ever could. to get a good gauge of how I should or shouldn't view it and feel about it. And my feeling based on that research and information, JC, as you again know, is it's just not a good system. And so with that being said, I don't really know that you can just plug and play quarterbacks for whatever the reason. I mean, Zeb Nolan had a surgery last night. It went well. Shane talked about it today. He's already back at the facility. He's going to be expected to be available next weekend, but Jason Brown probably is going to get the start. So I'm kind of summarizing here. Luke's out with an injury. So whether it's Luke, Zeb, Jason, Colton, whoever, I don't know that any of that really matters because everything else that surrounds the quarterback isn't performing well either, JC. The last I checked, if those other guys, if you can't block, you can't run routes, you run into each other, you make lots of penalties, if all that other stuff happens, how's the quarterback going to save this? I don't see it.
I mean, barring a dramatic departure from, what they're trying to do. And I think Shane Beamer on the teleconference today said, and look, coaches are going to say what coaches are going to say publicly. But, I watching Jason Brown against A&M in mop-up duty and sort of seeing his skill set, right? So Zeb Nolan, he's probably the best at checking into the right play at the line of scrimmage. That's been a disaster all year. This whole, I've been told by several people, the whole once they get to the line of scrimmage, it gets really hairy. They're like, what it looks weird, but it's once you get up there, it's really weird and confusing. And so, when you're in a situation like the Gamecocks are in, I don't think that you can sit there and stay married to your system, and say, all right, well, we're going to make Jason Brown go to the line and do all these checks and all this other stuff. Jason Brown and Shane Beamer keeps calling him a gamer. Okay. So, from all accounts, the Gamecocks have good practices from what we're told every week. So there are problems in games. So maybe the gamer should play, you know what I'm saying? But Jason's a different, style of quarterback. He's more of a spread guy. He's going to, exactly the types of things he was doing in mop-up duty the other night. And to have a chance, they have to do that. They can't go in to this game with Uncle Lucky's cornucopia, grab bag of plays and just start flinging stuff, out there like they've done every other game. And with all these checks and stuff, I think you definitely have to have, a scaled back deal, do something he can do well. And then rely on, not his legs. He's not like how they envision Luke Doty as a runner, right? Jason Brown's more of a guy that's I would say elusive in the pocket. In other words, where he's going to be help you with his mobility is pressure comes, and it inevitably will. Whereas Zeb Nolan's kind of a sitting duck, Luke Doty kind of herky-jerky, took off and ran. Jason Brown can buy time. And he does a good job of keeping his eyes down the field and make the scramble plays, right? And Carolina hasn't been able to make very many scramble plays this year at all. And so I think that I think that's where he helps, that and his arm and sort of like his rhythm in the passing game. But, for my take, I think they have to sort of say, all right, we're going to come into this game with Florida and here's the package and here's what we're going to do. And again, simplify it more and more and more in terms of the checks and stuff like that. Maybe get them directly from the sideline. I don't know. Maybe they've been doing that. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that I think just needs to be eliminated, that's not going to set them up for success because of confusion. And then if they do that, then, Brown can run around and make some plays. You just never know. Maybe he provides a spark for the offense. Certainly, Florida's going to come in probably off a big loss, and you got to think at that point they're 4-4. I mean, the night game at Williams-Brice, it may be cold, who knows? But there's a chance. But do I have any faith that will happen with Jason Brown? No, and I don't have any inside information on what they're going to do. I feel like based on Nolan having surgery and being a sitting duck in the pocket and not being able to block and not be able to run the ball, that Zeb Nolan's probably not the best choice to go out there and play, right? Because if you have a quarterback that you need to protect and you need a run game, he's not going to be very effective. if that's what he does. Jason Brown could be very effective, given his skill set, if they did something different. But I don't think. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Nolan did make it back and started. I just I think anything could happen between now and next Saturday with regards to the Gamecock offense, and it's a real shame because you look at some of the you look at the schedule left, like who's the best out of the 4 teams that we're talking about, or what's the what we say the least winnable game, or the team that's struggling the least. It would probably be Auburn, and I don't think anybody thought that when they looked at the schedule. Like Florida was going to be a beast. At Missouri was going to be tough, and Clemson certainly was supposed to be a top 3 team. And so it's really a shame that, the Gamecocks hadn't figured this out on offense right now because, again, I'll remind everyone that wants to sit there and talk about 2 wins last year, that this team, if it had an efficient offense, probably could have won 7-8 ball games, at the end of the day. Would they have beaten A&M the other night? No. Who knows what happens in that Tennessee game if the Gamecocks counter early and don't let it snowball. They're not beating Georgia, but Kentucky, I mean, my goodness, you had 1 offensive touchdown drive the whole night and 3 times. I mean, that kind of thing. Yeah, and so that's the real sad part, I think, when you're talking about Gamecock football right now, is that it did not have to be this way, yet it is.
Yeah. You mentioned the word. I want to go back to it. You mentioned the word gamer. Because I'm not trying to pick apart Coach Beamer or the staff or anything like that. But I mean, I feel like it's a rather loose term from time to time. I mean, who else was a gamer? JC, you know who the all-time gamer was?
Steve Tannehill, Steven Garcia.
I'll give you one better. Both of them. Alshon Jeffrey practiced like crap Monday through Friday. So if you went by, well, he's just not practicing well, right? We just probably can't play him. Well, how bad would they have been? You know what I mean? Like Alshon, Coach Spurrier looked over and was like, man, this kid pretty good. I mean, I think we'll play him. I don't care what he looks like on Wednesday. I care what he looks like on Saturday. So if that's the real truth on Jason Brown, that's going to be fairly unfortunate if you ask me. I mean, if this kid goes in and pops it around and looks really good, but he didn't play because he didn't look good Monday through Friday. Yeah. Was saying all that, I think what's so disturbing to people is it's not a lack of progress on the offensive side of the football. It's that they've gotten worse. And so the question is why, right? And the answer is probably much longer than the 43 minutes we have remaining on our program. But I think a simple answer to this, JC, is, well, they got 30 plus quarters of football on tape. That's why, because the product didn't any good. And now everybody knows it. They see it. They know what the game plan for. And I'll point this out as well. I'm going to toss it back to you here. How many times in watching games this year, you've been to one, you've watched all the others. I've been to all the home games and watched every play. Unfortunately, I went back and watched the A&M game. How many times have you heard somebody, Darren, you're a broadcaster. You know exactly what I'm about to say here when I say this. How many times have you heard the analyst on TV or a member of the broadcast team say, yeah, Carolina's really picking on so-and-so. He's the weak part of their defense. How many times you heard that? None. The answer is 0.
It was my answer. But
yeah, the answer is 0, and that's because they don't. I mean, so that tells me that they're either not good, which they aren't, or on top of that, somebody upstairs isn't identifying the weak link of the opposing defense, and I'd like to know that answer. And if they are, they're not taking advantage of it.
Here we go, and I've dug into this as well. All right, there is a reason when you look at college football, look at the SEC right now, where 4 of the top 5 offenses in the Southeastern Conference right now, in one way or the other, have come from the Art Briles coaching tree, right? And that would be Arkansas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and somebody else. Who else has Briles? Arkansas, Tennessee, Arkansas, Ole Miss.
Who else has Briles?
Who else has a Briles tree guy? But anyway, 3 of the top 4, whatever. three of the best offenses in the league, right, are from the Briles coaching tree. And then the other one's Alabama. And, you know, of course, we know what they do with their RPO game and stuff like that. It's a scaled back deal. You look around college football, there is a reason guys that come from the high school level as offensive coordinators have a higher hit rate, I guess, than guys that bounce down from the NFL. And the reason is this. NFL offenses are designed with a lot of nuance in them, right? A lot of small details. Because on Sundays, you're playing against the best teams or best athletes, on some of the best athletes in the world, right? The best football players in the world. There's no motivation factor in the NFL. You don't have to sit there and motivate your players, right? Because these guys are, you know, NFL players, and if they don't perform, you just cut them and, you know, you go get somebody else, right? So there's no motivation that you have to do. You know, there's nothing going on personally. I mean, these guys are pros, right? Plus you get 12 hours a day to put it in, okay? And everybody's good on Sunday, so you better be nuanced and a little complex. People want to know, why didn't Steve Spurrier's offense work in the NFL? Well, it's because it was probably a little easy to figure out, you know, after a while. In college, not so much, because he could sit there and match wits and exploit weaknesses. So, you know, in the NFL, you are looking for matchup advantages, but you're not necessarily going, hey, that number, they're trying to hide number 8 over there. He hadn't covered anybody a lick. Let's just go right at him, you know, and that's which is the way you do it in college. Also, here's why high school coaches are more successful when they come to college than pro coaches when they come back down. In high school, you just go with who you got. I mean, you don't necessarily – there are some high schools that can recruit, and some of them do that, and some of them quote-unquote recruit, you know. But basically, you got who you got. Some years you're going to have a quarterback that's really good. Some years you're going to have a quarterback that can run but can't throw. Some years you're going to have a statue in the pocket. Some years you're going to have a great back. Some years you're going to be terrible at back. Some years you're not going to have a line. But the standards and the expectations for winning are the same, okay? So you got to figure out how to do it. Okay, so we're bad at right tackle this year. So here's how we're going to run this play to get our desired outcome. So they're far more they use far more ingenuity, I guess. They're far more resourceful, you know, with their X's and O's. And then you have to understand, too, in high school, you don't have all the time to teach it like you do in the pros either, just like college. So the application of it, you know, when you're teaching it, it has to be simple. Whereas if you're an NFL guy, you don't really care. You're just all expected to get it. And so people want to know why, you know, running a NFL offense and all that great, nice stuff doesn't necessarily work for college kids. Those are the reasons why. And that's also the reason why high school coaches in this sport tend to go to college and go like gangbusters. And there's also the look at, you know, some of the greatest offensive coaches in college go to the NFL and get their head handed to them, because it's not a different sport, guys, but it's a different set of circumstances that you have to put a football team together. And that's why, for the life of me, at South Carolina and other places, quite frankly, because Shane Beamer is not the only one that's hired somebody that's trying to do this, right? And if you look at the offensive rankings in the SEC, they're down there at the bottom. You can look at all the schools that have done this. You want another example, Missouri's defense. Steve Wilkes, great idea. Let's run an NFL defense. Well, they're the worst in the league. Wow. You know, and their kids are confused. I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. You know, you kind of want to look at that, and, you know, it's not something that's like a tragic error and mistake that, oh my God, what's the Shane Beamer era going to look like now? He just is in over his head, all this other stuff. No, a lot of people make this mistake. Football coaches do this often, because I think football coaches, what do they love? They love football. And that's a lot of football you're bringing from up there versus being kind of resourceful from the other levels. And that's, I get it, but it needs to be fixed. I mean, something you just cannot expect college kids to run the type of system that South Carolina is trying to run. And for the life of me, I don't know. I've always kind of been against pro-style offenses, pro-style at South Carolina because of personnel. Because you know how Alabama used to do it, you know, line up in the eye, they'll run you, but they got the best backs, they got the best everything, you know. Georgia has great running backs every year, usually pretty good on the offensive line. So Georgia with kind of the way their school is and sort of the DNA of their program, they can line up to do that. Very few programs can. Very few programs even are. And so then you say, okay, well, JC, it's a pro style system, and this is what got me why it wasn't a red flag. Look at the pro systems that are fun to watch now, Andy Reid's of the world and all that, and you start thinking about the concepts, and some of those concepts they use up there are like air raid concepts and stuff, college offensive concepts. And so you're like, oh, okay, cool. You don't think about the fact that, what's important with this situation is how are you teaching it, who is teaching it, and can you teach it? And that's when I heard Lincoln Riley, Joe Brady, that kind of thing, wow, I was like, wow, cool, roll, we'll do whatever. That sounds great. And I think the question the next time, we talk about offensive coordinators taking a job anywhere is it applicable to the college game? Can the kids learn it? Is it fun? And can they execute it? And that's really all that matters. I think when you look to evaluate what Carolina could possibly do down the road offensively, but I just think that this backs up kind of what I've kind of as a rule of thumb said for years about these quote unquote pro style offenses. It's fine if you want to run it and what it looks like or whatever is fine, but you better be able to teach it and you better not make it too complicated. Unfortunately, guys, I've seen this over. I mean, you can go back to Charlie Weiss when he coached Will Muschamp at Florida, and those guys on that Florida team that year were just, John Brantley and Chris Randy and Jeff Dempson. Those guys have played a lot of football, winning football at Florida, and that offense was a dumpster fire. And Charlie Weiss really, at Notre Dame, when he had a guy like Brady Quinn out there running it, it could work, but you're not going to find that guy at quarterback very often. You're happy in college if you got a guy that can just read defenses. Not, you can't expect your guy to go out there and just be like a maestro engineer and perform like he's performing on Sundays. You're not number one, you're not gonna be able to recruit that consistently. Number two, even if you can recruit the quote unquote 4 and 5 star guys, those guys aren't all created equal in terms of mentality and stuff. And that's just the quarterback position. I'm not even talking about like the rest of these guys. So I think at the end of the day, if you want to know what's wrong with the South Carolina offense and why they're, not average, because again, nobody expected a juggernaut. That's why the players are confused, and you feel bad for the players. You really do, because they're trying, they're working extremely hard. I just think that, the biggest problem on offense is they're being asked to do something that restricts their ability to go out there and play free. And when you don't play free, you play tight, you worry, the mistakes compound, you can't get any momentum, that kind of thing. So the hope, if you're the Gamecock fans out there, is that before Florida, they'll go with Jason Brown. Jason can give them a little spark. He can improvise and do some things that the other quarterbacks haven't been able to do, and to keep the chains moving. So that's your sliver of hope. But I am worried that, based on this quote today from Shane Beamer, that we're not going to change much schematically. We do what we do. And it's what those guys have been doing all season. Well, that's fine from a practice standpoint. That's fine. But my concern is you're going to put Jason Brown out there and expect him to go, run all the nuance. And shoot, that's hard. That's hard. That was hard for Doty and Nolan to do. And, my assumption is it will not set Brown up for success if they go that direction. But, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll simplify and get it going. I could see a scenario where we're sitting there talking about a win and Jason Brown performing well next Saturday night if certain things break certain ways in practice. But like I said, without knowing, I'm not all that confident that that'll take place.
1:29 on a Wednesday afternoon here on the JB and Goldwater show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Let's get into the Share Healthcare chat lines here. Aaron says, I don't know, JC, you gave a thumbs up Satterfield, which of course Darren has responded to him. That was before seeing the product on the field. Why make the claim until you see it? JC, I mean, you can choose to answer that if you'd like to. I'll chime in on this as well. Aaron, this is a situation where there was a guy who had some success in his career. You can define success differently if you'd like to. But he had some success working on one of the best coaches out there with Matt Rule. And he's also spent a year with Joe Brady. And you pair that with the fact that it was explained, JC, in depth multiple times that there was going to be certain aspects of that offense and some Oklahoma stuff and all that kind of lumped together. And they were going to design an offense in Columbia based off of that. And we're in the opinion business. JC, you're in the opinion business. You cover the Gamecocks. You had to make an opinion, and I'm not sure how you would formulate an opinion that would be negative based off of that information in the preseason, but I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I mean, we're in a situation where I think that the art of in-depth thought, nuance, if you will, is a lost cause. It's like a caveman thing. Good, bad, thumbs up, thumbs down, ooga booga, unga bunga, like Captain Caveman. And it drives me crazy because that's not what I said. I never sat there and praised and thought, oh, God, they knocked it out of the park with that hire. Here's what I said when Marcus Satterfield was hired. And I don't know how anyone would expect me to react any other way. I mean, because this is what every hire is. I mean, you have people going back to Temple that go, well, his offense ranked this at Temple, and you're like, yeah, but he called plays for Matt Rule and all this other stuff, and people think, and that was 5 years ago, and so, what I said was I like the plan, I like the conceptually what they are trying to do, and conceptually, those were two college offenses that had, Lincoln Riley at some point may go to the NFL, but obviously that's a college offense. And what Joe Brady sort of helped LSU do and did for LSU in 29 college. So for the life of me, I'm not sitting there thinking, you're just going to bring the old playbook down, and do this crazy install and all that. But what I never said was, and what I told everybody, and I was clear about this, right, from the start, I will not know and have an opinion of Marcus Satterfield as an offensive coordinator until after 4 games.
Right.
And I said that over and over and over again because I would continue to say the plan is this. If you look at the plan, that sounds good. There were really not a lot of red flags offensively, operationally in the spring game. They're kind of in fact, I thought they did some things in the spring game I like that I haven't seen since. Go figure, and so there wasn't, a big red flag there other than fans love to sit there and jump the gun and go, well, this guy did this here, so therefore it's a bad hire. Jalen Foster came from Gardner Webb, therefore he sucks. Okay, that's the typical. A lot of Carolina fans do that because it's black and white. Ooh. And then when things go bad, you want to throw it in my face like, oh, you were wrong. Thumbs up. So what do you know? Bah! Man, I'm sorry. Number one, you should probably listen to me a little bit clearer and understand what I'm saying. Number two, that is not somebody that I sat there and went, oh, my God, what a wonderful hire. I said every one of Shane Beamer's hires made sense, and damn it, I'll still say it. I mean, I am looking at it right now that it made sense, okay? And that's all any coach can do, all right? And every coach in the country makes bad hires. And I haven't sat here once after a single game this year and praised the offense, okay?
No.
And so I don't know. You folks want to sit there and screenshot posts and tweets about, and I don't know if you're doing this, Aaron, or not, but some people kind of like to screenshot the little post. All these hires make sense. I'll stand by that because they did. But just because something makes sense, in case you haven't noticed, it made sense that Clemson was in the top 5 this year, didn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
It made sense that, Alabama was favored over A&M, didn't it? You know, I mean, come on, let's be real here. But that's all I said. And and for the first time, really, you know, unlike the three Muschamp coordinators, which I was kind of like, well, give them time, but I like what they're doing. And it took time to really be fair with Roper and McClendon that they didn't work out. You know, unlike those, I said, look, man, you know, I don't know if he can call plays. And I was very clear about that. So I don't know. You know, I don't know what the deal is. I just, not me trying to get on you, Aaron, but it drives me crazy when, number one, people don't really listen to what I say. Number two, everything's either up or down, black or white. And that's just not how life, football, or anything that anybody wants to intelligently talk about works like. And number three, I've been as critical of this guy as any coach that's coached at South Carolina, and I've owned the Big Spur since 2007. And believe me, there's been some coaches that have deserved some criticism. So, you know, you want to sit there and say that I gave a thumbs up to that hire? No, I said it made sense, and it did. Well, does it make sense right now? No, and it's obvious. So, you know, listen to what I'm saying now. You want to sit there and live in the past? You know, I'm sure somebody can come to your job and, you know, dig up a sliver of what you've said or done sometime and construct a narrative that you don't know what you're doing or talking about, which is what you're trying to do. And that's fine too. I hope somebody really does that to you one day.
Yeah. I you know, we all, the other side of this, JC, is, you know, a lot of the information that guys like you receive or myself or pretty much everybody else, like that's what we have to go off of. Yeah, there's certain things we can get out there and see, and that's the information that we have, and then that's what you have to go off of in order to discuss it, and that's what we had. And here's the thing. I mean, if anybody watches this show, Darren, I think you can attest to where I've been. I mean, for a while. I mean, you know, this is a putrid offense, and it needs to be. It needs to be, I think, totally revamped and redone.
Well, one thing to just keep in mind, I had this conversation with someone today. Like, people just want something to complain about. And when you're given something on a silver platter to complain about, you can take it in all sorts of ways. Just because it isn't working out the way you either hoped, thought, planned, doesn't mean a comment from way back when is off base. It means things happen differently, right? You didn't think that Illinois was going to run for 5,000 yards against Penn State. It was fair that Penn State was favored by whatever they were favored by, and they got railroaded. Things don't always go like to come in and start throwing attacks at what may or may not have been said or how you interpreted something. I mean, that's one of the more frustrating parts of this show in particular for me.
Oh yeah, it's a lot too out there in the Twitterverse. And you know, look, here's the thing. I would also, man, somebody on the message board earlier this year, because here's the thing. Going into the year, everybody thought South Carolina was going to be able to run the football, right? And there were people talking about, you know, they could have 2,000-yard rushers and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, if they do that, they're going to win a lot of games. I highly doubt it. So, I mean, I don't think I've been sitting here being the P.T. Barnum of freaking Gamecock football expectations on offense. I've been very cautious with it. And, you know, and so then we get right here. And so anyone, I'll read this. Anyone with half a brain could see this offense wasn't going to be anywhere near Oklahoma or any other good offenses. Okay, I don't think anybody predicted Oklahoma, Aaron. What we're talking about scheme and you know, you could go out and run. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Clemson runs the same scheme it's ran when it's won national championships. Okay, yeah. So that is a scheme. Clemson's offense this year is not very good. Clemson's offense last year and the year before, very good. Same scheme. Okay. That's number one. Number two, and here's where you lost me. The only way this offense was going to be good was to run the football. You didn't realize Oklahoma runs the crap out of the football. Oklahoma runs up. Oklahoma did have 2,000-yard rushers. Okay. So, you know, the expectation this year was South Carolina should be able to run the ball and be pretty good. And teams are probably going to stack the box, and then we'll see what happens when they have to go downfield. Now it's like, you're just hoping to get 5 yards. I mean, it's a complete 180. But I'll stand by this and say this again. The idea of blending Joe Brady's passing concepts with whatever Lincoln Riley does at Oklahoma is still a great idea. And for those of you that want to sit there and, you don't want to hear about blended systems? Well, Steve Spurrier ran a blended system the entire time he was at South Carolina and had success. Once they brought in Eric Wolford in 2009 and ran the zone read out running game versus his passing game, okay? Blended system worked fine here then. Clemson is a blended system of some things Tony Elliott has done in the past and the Chad Morris Foundation they laid, right? Ole Miss is a blended system with things Lane Kiffin's done his entire career, plus things that Kendall Browse likes, plus things Jeff Lebby likes. Josh Heupel at Tennessee, who all the Gamecock fans are worshiping now. That is a blended system. It's a system that he ran at Oklahoma, meets what they kind of had at UCF from Lebby and the Browse tree, and that's why they're pretty good. There's blended systems all over the place, okay? You can make it work, but you have to know how. And so, what I was talking about at the beginning was that's a good idea. It's also a good idea that I need to go, tear down this front wall here and build myself a sunroom. That doesn't mean I can do it. That's a good idea, JC. Yes. Okay. So, that's way different than me saying, JC's going to go tear down his wall and build a sunroom today because he's a master carpenter. And I just wish, and I don't want to pick on Aaron. I just wish that people these days would listen a little more and grasp details a little more. And that's kind of everywhere because that bothers me because we all work very, very hard to not only just say, unga bunga, caveman, good, bad. You want that. You can listen to some broadcasts on certain networks sometimes, or whatever. There's plenty of people that can tell you that. And so it almost gets insulting when, somebody tries to call you out on something that's so surface level and petty when the answer is just so much more complex that it really just insults your intelligence and, makes you feel like, hey, what are you doing all this work for if certain members of your audience are just not going to listen or care to comprehend or process what you're saying. That sounded like Mike Leach.
Well, that was very well said, though. So.
Yeah. What's your favorite candy? I don't know. I kind of like the, Whoppers. All right. So, final quick question on that, and then I want to move forward here, JC. Who recommended Marcus Satterfield to Shane Beamer?
Joe Brady and Matt Rule.
So they thought he'd be a good offensive coordinator in the SEC. Matt Rule and Joe Brady. Do you think that their recommendations carry any weight or no? Or should they?
I think so. I mean, I think that it's
you don't have to say anymore. I know the answer to the question.
Matt Rule, pretty good coach, right?
I mean, if Matt Rule and Joe Brady, look, the story is, JC, which Tony actually put it out on your website today when he was asked about it, that Shane Beamer tried to hire Joe Brady to come run an offense at South Carolina. Okay. So for those that maybe don't know that or haven't read that, and for those that say, well, why would you do that? Well, you can't tell people swing for the fences, and then when they swing for the fences, say, well, why would you do that? He swung for the fences, tried to keep Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo left. He swung for the fences. Joe Brady said no. Joe Brady and Matt Rule said, you need to hire this guy. Hey, I know Marcus Satterfield. We go back a long time, right? That's how this sucker unfolded. Really smart offensive mind. I mean, do we need to remind people that there's other people that know a lot more about football than we do? That you and I have sat here and talked multiple times to brilliant football minds who say this guy is extremely smart, but it's not correlating as an offensive coordinator. Clearly, that's been proven through 8 games. So Matt Rule, Joe Brady endorsed Marcus Satterfield to come work at South Carolina, and it hadn't worked out. Shane, apparently, as it appears, at this point in time, has made a hire that's not working out, and it's a very important hire. And that's where we need to go. He with what's on he's a first-year head coach, JC, 2/3 of the way into his first season. He's got a huge issue on his football team. They can't score points. I mean, what's laying? The easy answer, I get it all. If you're going to respond, well, you just have to fire him. Yeah, but I understand that. I'm not saying that I think Marcus Satterfield is the best fit here. I agree with everybody on that. I'm talking specifically about the load that's on Shane Beamer's shoulders right now. We had G.A. Mangus on last week who said your first year as a head coach is the most you'll ever learn in your career as a coach. So, I mean, I don't know how much inside information you have, but I can only imagine right now there's a lot on the plate of Shane Beamer. He's trying to get this thing figured out.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to say this too, because everybody's going to start, people bring up the assistant offensive line coach title that he had at the Panthers. And
hold on just a second. Aaron, who's most people? Answer the question. Quit saying crap like this. They must have been the only ones, of course, because when most people heard that name, it didn't go over well. Who is most people? If it's Johnny Football, who sits on row 18, section F, I don't give a crap what he thinks. Who are most people? Your buddies who you drink with? Your Uncle Frank? Is that most people? Who are most people? Because I don't give a crap what most people think. What matters is what qualified people think, and I'm not in that category. I'm not in that category. All I've done is talk about exactly what we have been told, and we discuss it. So don't most people by your message board buddies and your drunks that sit down at the corner bar. I don't want to hear any more of that. That's a crap load of crap is all it is. J.C. Shurburtt took exactly what he had information-wise and reported on it and gave opinions based on the information that he had. And as Craig just said, I think you're right. Who cares? You can't be exactly right about everything, and there's a lot of people who have been wrong about a lot of things. All right? It hadn't worked out. So don't blame just because you're pissed off, Aaron, and you're sitting behind your computer desk. You can't wait to go tweet about how much of a dipshit JC is and then the rest of us. You've been wrong about things too. Sometimes people are wrong. Shane Beamer might have gotten his hire wrong. And the only thing we can do is discuss it thoroughly. So don't sit here and say most people. Most people is a term that losers use who sit behind a keyboard. Those are your buddies. Those aren't anybody that you know have any influence or any knowledge of anything that pertains to these decisions. That's enough. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's just crap. That is message board, Twitter fodder. That is junk. And I'm going to defend JC on this without you having to do it anymore to yourself, JC. We're trying to have a legitimate conversation, and his frustrations are with you because you, quote unquote, defended a hire of a guy who was recommended by two of the most knowledgeable offensive minds in the game. Oh my God, JC, you should shut your website down. You are terrible at what you do. It's a joke. Aaron.
Well,
that's enough.
It's like,
go back to work.
I don't think anybody knew who Mark Satterfield was, to be honest. I mean, I think it was like and you want to sit there and talk titles and assistant O-line coach or what like that. Well, the Kentucky hired an analyst, I think, or an assistant receivers coach. I mean, those pro titles are a little different and all that. And sometimes you got to go with an unknown. I mean, Mike Yurcich is an offensive coordinator that Gamecock fans love. He's at Ohio State now. He's at Oklahoma State for years. You know where he came from? Shipping. He was at Penn State, right? He's at Penn State now, not Ohio State.
Yeah, he's first year at Penn State. They hired the guy 1 year in and then brought him in, and it started looking great. And
you ran into that Illini train, baby. Amazing. He came from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania College, right? G.A. Mangus, who we all can appreciate as a good offensive coach, before he was at Middle Tennessee, he was at Delaware Valley College, a D2 or D3 school, right?
I did a Mangus game when he was a OC at Kutztown in Shippensburg's D2 league in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and so sometimes it's not where you come from and all that good stuff. It's just and that part's fine. That said, do I think this is a hire at South Carolina that's even close to working out? No. And I keep trying to I tell everybody why. And this is something that nobody could. You don't really see it coming until the season when you're talking about nuanced plays and install and time to get everything in and the motivation factor with kids and the differences between. I mean, we could have sat here all summer and talked about the difference between college and pro football from an operational standpoint and probably come to the conclusion before practice even started that this was going to be a problem. But, who wants to sit there and talk about that? I mean, you just kind of wait and see. So, look, man, I'll own it. I'll own saying that I'll stand by saying every hire made sense. But, in college football, hires tend to make sense until they don't. And this one right now, unfortunately, doesn't anymore. But it did, it did. And so I'll continue to give my takes here, but I think people focus too much on where people come from, players included.
There's a different you went into the idea of the wall, right? Ideas and implementing ideas. We've just spent basically an hour on this train of thought in various different branches off that tree. An idea is great. Can you do it? Can you teach it? We've had weeks of conversations of good idea. Can you do it? I have lots of really good ideas, but you know what? I can't do it for one reason or another, whether I'm qualified or not qualified or don't have the money or the reason or I can't actually talent-wise pull this off. I still have lots of good ideas. Just because something makes sense on the outside and what you're hearing doesn't mean it's actually going to work. And right now, this isn't working.
It doesn't work.
I'll tell you right now.
And it was cautious optimism before the season. We talked about this 1,000 times, Darren and JC. We didn't know what to expect, but what we had in our arsenal was everything we've already talked about today. They're blending these systems. They're doing this. They're doing that. There's a whole running back. I mean, everybody saw the running backs last year, and one in particular, Kevin Harris, knowing that Marshawn Lloyd was healthy. Zaquandre White, we didn't know anything about Juju. We knew they had all these tight ends, yada, yada, yada. Everybody expected the offensive line to be pretty good, right? It was pretty good last year. And then you blend that. We can't have short-term memory loss here. We have to all remember what was being gathered, right, Darren, as you just mentioned, before the season. What was being gathered was the systems that they were trying to blend and create an identity for this South Carolina offense based on what we knew they actually had last year and what they would need to improve on. And Aaron, I know I went off on you here just a minute ago because I didn't like how you're trying to blame this on JC, but I think we can all agree on this. Nobody, and I mean literally nobody on planet Earth, thought that they would hire a guy, Marcus Satterfield, John Smith, Frank Peterson. I don't care. None of those names are even real outside of Marcus's. They could have hired the water boy, and people would have expected a more competent offense, at least one that could run the football based on previous results. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw this coming. And we are where we are. And the only thing we can all do, which is what JC has been doing, by the way, much more so than anybody else who covers the Gamecocks, you being brutally honest. And JC, you've been brutally honest for the last month and saying this doesn't work and they probably need to make a change. But how many people are out there saying that? And how much credit are you getting for that? Not much.
No. Go Tigers. I'm sorry. I just had to do the Ed Orgeron after you mentioned the water boy. But no, you're right. And look,
Xavier, nice. I like Xavier's comment there. It's a great comment.
I'll tell you this right now. If you have somebody coming in, let's say Shane Beamer has another guy comes in as the OC that's proven play caller at the college or high school level. I'll say high school too, because after really thinking about play calling and looking at college football and stuff, I think the high school guys do a lot better, because they have to be a little bit more innovative and creative and the personnel is not all the same, et cetera. Let's say he had a guy that came in and said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have passing concepts from Joe Brady's offense, and we're going to have a lot of the same stuff Lincoln Riley does, but here's our playbook, and here's how we're going to teach it. And this is how the kids are going to get it. I mean, look, man, we're at an age right now where a lot of college offenses at big-time programs, they're holding up pictures of emojis on the sidelines to call plays, right? I saw a picture of Judge Judy on the sidelines the other day, somebody calling a play, the Judge Judy formation or whatever. That's because college coaches are fundamentally teachers. They're teaching kids. They're teaching football. You're still teaching. Whereas in the pros, you're not. So if you brought somebody to me with the same plan, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to blend the system, and they could teach it, then it's still a good idea. And call it on Saturdays, it's a good idea. But those latter two parts of the whole thing, here's the plan, here's the teaching aspect of it, here's the calling aspect of it. One box got checked, and then the other two, we're finding out leave a lot to be desired.
I want to read Frank's comment here. Frank, I'm kind of reading it as I'm speaking, but the gist of it is, thank you for the compliment, Frank. We appreciate that. But I think many fans would be much less frustrated, even as bad as the coaching obviously is. I'm assuming you're speaking specifically to the OC there. If Shane wouldn't work so hard at shielding the offense is the glaringly worst problem on the team. And we only got a couple of minutes left. We got to let Frank run here, but I'm Frank, JC run here. And you too, Frank. I don't disagree with that, honestly. And JC, Shane is doing everything he can to keep water out of the boat right now. I mean, he's trying to get to 6 wins or more to get to a bowl game, which obviously seems incredibly unlikely at this point in time. But his job is to coach the football team and to win. And he's trying to figure out how to do that. Frank, I think you share a lot of people's thoughts, and I'll include myself in that. I've mentioned this with JC multiple times. JC, you and I talked yesterday off the air, and I'll leave the final couple words to you. But you and I had a phone conversation. Carolina fans in the Steve Spurrier era, right? Okay, let's go to the Steve Spurrier era. They were conditioned to brutal honesty. Brutal honesty, right, Darren? As an outsider looking in, we all knew when Steve stepped up to the podium, whatever the hell he was thinking, he was going to say it. And as a matter of fact, he brings some coaches in sometimes and hold them accountable, which like it or love it or leave it, whatever.
Still unique in the coaching world today. Very few are that honest.
You're right. It was a brutally honest 10 years under Steve Spurrier. And then you got to Will Muschamp, who really kept the curtain up. But he could kind of muscle his way through a lot of this stuff with a lot of coach speak that none of us really understood, the X's and O's stuff. Yeah. So, people went from Spurrier to Muschamp where it was like, hey, we'd like a little more insight into the program. And now you got Coach Beamer who's doing so as much, but he's collectively trying to hold everybody responsible every week and keep it kind of that team atmosphere. But Gamecock fans were conditioned for 10 years that whenever the coach steps up there, he's just going to say what's going on, and Spurrier did it. That's not the case anymore. And as Darren points out, 9 out of 10 don't do that. And Frank, you got a great point. I agree with you, actually. But it just is where it is. And I think people just need to understand, JC, as I turn it back over to you, that press conferences under Shane Beamer and most coaches are generally just going to be window dressing.
Yeah, and the Beamer is a positive energy guy. He's going to remain positive, with the media. Do I think that, so what's the worst that happens when he continues to be positive like this? Well, fans get scared first and foremost because they end up thinking that, people are whistling past the graveyard, so to speak, the turtle graveyard, JB. But no, people are whistling past the graveyard, and that there's no accountability, that Shane's just blind to whatever's happening. I'd be floored if Shane were blind to what's been going on, right? That's number one. And so what's the worst that can happen if he remains positive outside of he really believes what he's saying and they're not going to do anything to fix anything and just keep on keeping on?
Yeah. There's fear there. I guess.
Now that's the worst. That's the worst. But beyond that, the worst thing that's going to happen to Shane is the fans are just going to tune him out. They're not really going to listen to what he has to say in his press conferences because it ends up fundamentally being a waste of time if you just get the same answers over and over and over again. And that's not me from a media standpoint. I could care less what he says. I could care less what Shane Beamer says in public and to the media and all that. It doesn't really impact my job, my reporting, what I do. I'm not frustrated by the quotes, that kind of thing. It's not a media thing. But what's great about press conferences, though, especially at Carolina, because you had 2 celebrity coaches, and then it almost got comical listening to Muschamp because you're wondering, like, what body parts he going to talk about today? He's got an elbow. Oh, he's got a chin. He's got a chin. He's got an ear.
That's true.
He's got an ear, and then he just start talking about some X's and O's stuff, and he'd come in a bad mood one day, and he'd glare at somebody like Gene Sapakoff. He'd go,
"Oh yeah,"
So it was kind of entertaining. We all love the press conferences, good, bad, or ugly. You had 15 years of 2 celebrities coming into press conferences every day. So who doesn't want to hear Lou Holtz and Steve Spurrier talk? I just want to say this about Furman's punt team. It's the most excellent punt team in America. And the Spur comes in, he's like, we had a big sloppy practice today. We're just dropping practice and shooting. So, so you got those two, and then you had Muschamp, and then people ended up getting really frustrated with Muschamp at the end. But it was still like, you're like, it kind of is what it is. It's sort of unique. And now Beamer, it's just like, it's like that meme with the dog and the burning house with the coffee cup. This is fine, Yeah. And I understand what he's trying to do. And it's really not going to damage anything. I think the worst thing that happened, like I said, is fans are just going to tune him out for the time being, while the team struggles and things like that. But that's Frank, to your point, and I know Frank a little bit. He's a great guy. And a really smart guy and knows his stuff. To your point, I do agree that as fans, it gets tiresome and you worry. You worry about, because there's no public signs of change and everybody's looking for change. I can assure you that a lot of people would be stunned if Shane Beamer just, stood pat, no matter how that looks, and maintained the status quo, because it's obviously not working for the reasons I've laid out. I mean, I don't know that you can recruit. I don't think you can recruit your way out of this at South Carolina at all. I told somebody if they ran this same offense with the same coach calling the plays, the 2011 Gamecocks maybe would have gotten to Shreveport. I mean, and that wasn't an offensive juggernaut of a team. That was a defensive team. But, even with Alshon Jeffrey, Marcus Lattimore, Stephen Garcia / Connor Shaw, all those guys, and those were talented teams as far as the Gamecocks are concerned. Marcus Satterfield runs that offense that year. That team barely gets to Shreveport. And so it's systemic. You can't recruit to do what they want to do. Even at Alabama, I don't think they can do that. Nick Saban knows he's got 20 hours a week, right? And so this isn't something where, okay, you just stick with it as is, without some kind of massive revamp, be it a new offensive coordinator, be it a new mandate on your offensive coordinator, be it something. I'm in the new offensive coordinator category, in my opinion, just for the record. If you just maintain status quo, you're never getting there. You're never getting there, and you're going to waste opportunities. Like I said, 2011 team barely makes Shreveport, right? Well, that's a wasted opportunity because that team, as we saw, is a whole lot better than that, right? And so you're going to continue to waste opportunities like this team had this year, waiting on some long-term system install. And in college football, you can't spend 2 years getting ready for something. I mean, it's just not, it just can't work like that. So that's my final point on the whole thing.
Yeah. And we got to run, but long-term system installs are fine if you gradually get there. Sometimes you're going to be limited in what you're trying to accomplish. If Mike Bobo was still the OC here, that offense that you saw last year would be complemented by a couple of more things this year. And in 3 or 4 years, you would have a complete Mike Bobo offense. That's generally how it works. But
Mike Bobo dialed up the plays last year too. Like you look at what he had to work with. You basically have Shi Smith. I mean, everybody knew Shi Smith was Carolina's only receiver. Shi Smith's out there catching 12 passes a game. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. That's play calling, folks. So I don't see anything. There's nothing like that this year with the Gamecocks as far as finding guys over and over and over again, getting them open, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it's been a mess, but and final quick note on it as well. I think guys like Aaron and Grover, all everybody here who are Carolina people, I think where everybody can shares a lot of frustration as well, even though they might not come out and say it, is that team in the Upstate isn't very good this year, and people are tired of losing to them. And people are looking at this and going, I don't know if you'd ever publicly admit it, but if there's probably a lot of people out there going, I don't give a crap if we win any game left on the schedule this year. We can finish 5-7, but let's beat Clemson and end this thing. And right now, the way this train wreck has been going on offense, they're not going to sniff him. So, I think people see opportunity, JC. This November gauntlet, it isn't what we all probably thought it would be at this point in time. and people see opportunity to take advantage of, and Carolina hasn't been able to do that. And we'll see what the off week brings, but I know we got to bring this sucker to a close. I will pass along our condolences to the Joe Lee Dunn family, former defensive coordinator at South Carolina. He was also the defensive coordinator at Mississippi State, amongst many roles that he held in college football. By the way, he was the DC for the Bulldogs inside of Williams-Brice Stadium when Eric Henry threw the fade to beat Jackie Sherrill's group that day. So Joe Lee Dunn has passed. And he was spent a couple years in Columbia. Gamecocks did issue a statement on that today. JC, pretty fiery stuff today, but sometimes it gets that way. So we appreciate you hanging on through Coach Holbrook's extended segment, and we're glad we're friends, and I hope your turtle's okay.
Oh, well, thank you very much, guys, and I appreciate it, and always appreciate all the Gamecocks and other fans tuning in, and can't wait for next Wednesday. And looking forward to getting these last 4 games in and the rest of college football. So,
no doubt. There you go, JC Shurburtt. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Big Spur.com. And Aaron, to your point, that last comment there, that's what I thought the offense would resemble last year's because it made sense. It makes no sense today. It doesn't make sense today. I absolutely agree with you. It makes no sense. We all thought they'd be able to run the football, and they can't. It's embarrassing. It's not JC's fault, though. Thanks to Chad Holbrook. If any of you missed Coach Holbrook, I'd go back and listen to that. He's got some great stuff in there about the World Series, not just the college. That was great to have him, JC. Always great to have Darren. If it wasn't for Darren, you wouldn't have me or any of us. And we really appreciate having all of y'all. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Go Braves. Go Braves tonight at 8:09 on Fox. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. We'll see you tomorrow at noon.